It's been 6 long months since I last had a centerpiece fish in this 20-gallon planted aquarium, and I've really missed having betta fish, but the last time I tried to add a betta, he was super aggressive and was chasing the platies all the time and ended up ripping his own long, beautiful tail. Now, Kasha from Creative Pet Keeping says she's had really good luck with plakat or short-tailed betta fish because there's just less finnage to drag around, and that results in less tearing and less fin rot, hopefully in the future. So as soon as my daughter's false Julii corridoris catfish were finally free and healthy from the quarantine tank, it was time to get a new fish. Hi, I'm Irene with Girl Talks Fish, here with practical tips for busy fish keepers like you. And I've kept lots of bettas in the past, and so I had a very specific kind of requirement list for what I was looking for. Something very different. So a plakat betta, a red colored betta, because I've always kept blue ones in the past, and then maybe a giant betta, because I feel like a normal plakat betta wouldn't take up as much space visually compared to a half moon betta or the dwarf gourami I had before. So I reached out to a betta importer I knew, Ben from MB Bettas, and he used to reside in Colorado, but unfortunately I found out he's moved quite a while ago and he doesn't sell to any of the Colorado local fish stores anymore. So unfortunately I had to let him know, yeah, I'm really looking to find a betta fish, hopefully from a local fish store, because that way it's just less hassle, you can see the fish in person, and there's no risk from shipping. My second attempt at looking for the perfect betta was to go to a local fish store. Now I normally go to Petco because there's just so much variety, and unless, at least in my experience, whenever I go to local fish stores, they seem to get like a lot of the same type of betta, so not as much variety. However, Aqua Imports happened to have a huge batch of koi plakats. So I went there, and after standing there for lots and lots of time, I narrowed it down to option 1, a red koi plakat. Option 2, another red koi plakat. And number 3 was a white koi plakat, which was kind of not what I was envisioning before, but after talking to my husband, Mr. Gamer, he suggested going for the white one because he said it would really stand out more, especially since this aquarium tends to be pretty low light, very dim. And I polled my members and they seemed to agree as well. So took the white plakat betta home, and now the number one concern is he gonna be too aggressive? Because, I mean, I did notice he seemed to be calmer at the store versus option number 1 and number 2 were actively flaring at their neighbors, but there's no guarantee. Now, typically male betta fish are in isolation pretty much their whole lives. Like, they are jarred as soon as they are juveniles and start getting a little aggressive. Then they get shipped in individual bags to the fish store, who puts them in individual cups. They're always alone, but this local fish store had them in a larger tank that was split up by dividers. So technically all of the bettas were sharing the same water. I went ahead and put him in quarantine and gave him the quarantine med trio just in case, but he was very lively, super interactive, not camera shy like Sonic, my previous betta. Like, look at him chasing my finger. I usually like to wait until my fish are out of quarantine before I name them, but I was already in love. So you know me, I like to pick geek names. And this time I picked an anime called Mushi-shi, where the main character is called Ginko, who has white hair and is missing one eye. And this betta fish is white, and he has like one normal looking eye and one completely black eye. So I thought the name was perfect. And then it finally came the time to add him to the community tank, which is kind of scary because I really didn't have a second option in mind if it didn't work out. Like, normally you would have another tank set aside for them, but I don't have room for any more tanks. Maybe I could take one of my larger tanks and put a divider in for it, but that's really not ideal and not the most attractive looking thing. But thankfully, when he went in, he seemed to pretty much ignore most of the other tank mates, which are cardinal tetras, coolie loaches, pygmy corridoris, and some other fish in there. And so not only was he not chasing them, he also didn't seem to be stressed by them in turn. Like, these are mostly shyer fish that keep in the middle to bottom layers of the tank, whereas Ginko really likes hanging out in the top layers, which is great. Now, at first I did notice a lot of glass surfing where he was going up and down along the sides of the aquarium, looking at his reflection, but that probably only happened for about the first week or two. And then, thankfully, he wasn't flaring at his reflection either, which is another sign of aggression. As for possessiveness over food, I would say he does tend to linger around the food piles, which keeps the shyer fish away, but I wouldn't say he's aggressively guarding them like Unicron the dwarf gourami was. So I just need to make sure to feed foods that scatter all over the tank so that he can't accidentally hog it all. Even with Sunstreaker the mystery snail, I think he kind of poked him once out of curiosity, and then that was it. He's pretty much left him and his long antennae alone ever since. So all in all, I would say he's very comfortable in his new home, and he's even made his first very puny little bubble nest, which is so adorable. My first impressions of Plakat Bettas would be, the shorter tail, like I mentioned before, means it's probably less likely to have tail rips and fin rot. It also means he's faster, so maybe more tolerant of slightly faster currents. Like usually if you have anything but the slowest current, your betta fish is gonna just get whooshed around the tank, very stressful, might cause illness. And then I think it might make him less of a target for any fin nippers that would be in the tank. Although him being faster also means he can chase other fish better, which isn't good. I would say the number one biggest difference I've seen between short-tailed and long-tailed bettas would have to be maneuverability. I mean, he is constantly twisting and wiggling around into the tightest spaces, the plant roots, the floating plants that have lots of stems are really dense. I mean, he's very active, very interesting to watch, and I'm constantly amazed by what he's doing. So I'm not sure I can go back to having a long-tailed betta after this. He's really cool. Now the cons are, I would say your average person probably doesn't think Plakat Bettas are as pretty. Like I had a family member who A, didn't even know he was a betta fish, and then B, when I told that person that he was a betta, they were like, is he defective or a baby? And I was like, no, his tail's never gonna get any longer. So, beauty in the eye of the beholder, I guess. As for aggression levels, I had no idea the internet apparently thinks that Plakat Bettas are the most aggressive type of betta. Whoops. I personally think that ultimately it still comes down to the individual betta's personality because, as you can see, Ginko is a fairly mild-mannered, good citizen of the community tank. Now, there were some things I did when I was choosing him, so you can check out this video over here on some of the signs I was looking for while I was still at the fish store. Take time to enjoy your aquariums, and I'll see you in the next video.